They want to all come for a visit.
Ready? Good evening, everyone. I would like to call this meeting to order and welcome everybody to the August 14th, 2024 City of Henderson Board of Zoning Adjustment meeting. Sarah, may I get a roll call?
Mike Arnold,
Here.
Heather Knight,
Here.
Rob Turney,
Here.
Landon Overfield, Marcos Nicholas.
Thank you, Sarah. Mr. Davis, you promised to tell the truth this evening.
Do.
Thank you so much. Our first appeal, 3524, will you bring that to our attention, please?
3521.
3521.
Sure.
Reading my list upside down.
Proposed Appeal 3521 is submitted by Evan Dixon for the property located at 733 North Main Street. The applicant is requesting an 8-foot height variance to replace an existing garage with a garage that has storage space pursuant to Article 4, Section 4.24C, Appendix A, Zoning Code, City of Henderson, Kentucky. This property is zoned R1. Notices were sent to surrounding neighbors. We have received calls concerning this appeal. The variance worksheet states that there are special circumstances for this particular lot that make it different from other lots in the same zone. The 14-foot height restriction prohibits the upstairs and adequate slope of a roof. Strict application of the provisions of the zoning ordinances impose an unnecessary hardship on the applicant or deprive the applicant of reasonable use of the land. The existing garage is in disrepair and needs to be torn down and rebuilt. I believe a tree fell in the garage, actually. The current height is over 14 feet. Special circumstances that state in their worksheet are, 1, the granting of the variance will not affect public health, safety, or welfare in that there is an existing garage in the same place, the house is much higher. 2, the granting of the variance will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity in that the houses surrounding are higher than the garage or downhill from the garage. 3, the granting of the variance will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public in that the new garage will not restrict any views. 4, the granting of the variance will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the zoning ordinance in that the height variance is minimal to current structure already there. Staff has reviewed the request and submit the request for the board's consideration and action.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Does this board have any questions for Steve? Any questions for Steve? If there are no questions, will the applicant or applicant's representative please approach the podium? If you will sign in with your name and address, please. Mr. Dixon, do you promise, or do you, I know you too well. Will you please state your name?
Evan Dixon.
Mr. Dixon, do you promise to tell the truth?
Yes.
Thank you so much. What would you like to add to Mr. Davis's testimony?
I believe that sums it up pretty well. As he mentioned, a tree did fall in our existing garage, doing some extensive damage. At this point, it makes more sense to tear down and rebuild. We're rebuilding within all the applicable setbacks, only requesting the variance for height in order to allow some finished area for storage.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. I'm sorry, I'm off tonight. Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Does this board have any questions for Mr. Dixon? Any questions?
Do we have a picture of the current garage? We don't.
Any other questions?
So on this picture, so I'm just going to ask elephant in the room. On this picture, it shows that that's a finished, it appears to be like more like a living area. So is it going to be a living area or storage?
No, it will not be a living area. Primary use is for storage. I believe the architect was just visualizing how things
Okay.
would fit there.
Okay,
Looking for primarily Christmas decorations, things of that nature.
okay. All right, yeah, I just had the question.
One of the questions that we got from the office was, will this be 3 foot from the actual property line in all directions, from drip edge to the property line?
As far as a drip edge, I need to defer to John Redding that's planning to have build it. I understand we're within all applicable setbacks, but I would defer to him.
Is Mr. Redding here?
Yes.
Mr. Redding, would you approach the podium, please? Please sign in with your name and address, please. Mr. Redding, do you promise, please state your name.
John Redding.
Mr. Redding, do you promise to tell the truth?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Did you hear Mr. Davis's question?
Yes, the setbacks will be to drip edge, or in this case, gutter, and meet all existing setbacks for the property. The front, where the car will actually pull in, will be in the same location as the current garage that has to be torn down. Like they stated, a tree fell on this garage. It's in disrepair. To my understanding, they're not even parking in it right now until we move forward with kind of what the plan is. It won't be a livable space upstairs. The plan is to do a half bath in the downstairs if we're able to do the plumbing. That's a little bit trickier, and that's a different issue. But like he said, the architect just went on his own and kind of put some couches or whatever it is in that picture. So
Okay. Mr. Davis, is your question answered?
Sure.
Does this board have any questions for Mr. Redding? If not, Mr. Redding, you may be seated. Is there, Mr. Dixon, is there anything else you would like to add?
No, sir.
Okay. You may be seated if you like. Is there anybody here to speak for or against Appeal 3521? Is there anybody here to speak for or against Appeal 3521? If there is no one here to speak for or against Appeal 3521, I'll close the open forum and ask for a motion.
I move that we grant Appeal 3521 for an 8-foot height variance to replace existing garage with a garage with storage space for the property located at 733 North Main Street with the following conditions. Must follow all local and state building codes and permits. All watershed shall be contained on the property. The structure shall not be used for any type of residence. New structure should fit with the aesthetics of the current home and surrounding neighborhood. These findings are based on the fact that the lot was platted and built on prior to the adoption of the zoning ordinance, and that the evidence presented showed that the granting of this appeal will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, and that the new garage will be in the same place as current garage and house is much higher than garage, will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, and that surrounding homes are much higher or downhill from the current home and garage, will not cause a hazard or a nuisance to the public, and that the new garage will not restrict the neighbor's view, and will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations, and that the height variance is minimal due to the current situation already there.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, Sarah, I'll ask for a vote.
Aye.
Yes.
Heather.
Yes.
Ron.
Yes. Mr. Dixon, Appeal 3521 has been granted in your favor. If you have any questions, please see Mr. Davis. He can clear anything up as far as the conditions. Thank you so much. Mr. Davis, our next appeal, 3522, will you bring that to our attention?
Yes. Boza Appeal 3522 is submitted by Leonard Meckles for the property located at 355 Racetrack Road. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to allow a recreational vehicle community pursuant to Article 16, Section 16.03D, Appendix A zoning code, City of Henderson, Kentucky. This property is zoned RMH, which is residential manufactured housing. All adjoining property owners have been notified. We have not received calls concerning this appeal. Recreational communities are permissible with a condition, when a conditional use is granted by the Board of Zoning Adjustments with the limitations found in Article 16, Section 16.03D, Appendix A zoning code, City of Henderson, Kentucky. 1, it shall be unlawful within the city limits of Henderson for any person to construct a recreational vehicle community without securing a permit from the Kentucky Cabinet for Health and Family Services, also known as Cabinet, by application through the Cabinet or its designated agency. All recreational vehicle communities shall have all lots numbered and posted in a manner easily identifiable by emergency personnel. 2, no recreational vehicle community shall be operated within the city limits of Henderson except as provided in KRS 219.310 through 219.410 and 902 KAR 15:020 in accordance with the provisions of all zoning regulations. Number 3, review of plans for a recreational vehicle community shall be conducted by the Cabinet or its designated agency, and by the appropriate planning and zoning staff and committees. 4, all plans for a recreational vehicle community shall receive final approval from the Planning Commission and shall be subject to all Planning Commission regulations, including but not limited to bonding requirements. 5, all recreational vehicle communities shall have a permanent paved roads meeting the applicable width and design requirements of the Henderson City County subdivision regulations. 6, there shall be no permanent structures placed on a recreational vehicle space. 7, recreational vehicle communities shall not be contained within manufactured housing parks unless constructed as a separate approved and permitted section. 8, recreational vehicles shall not remain in the same recreational vehicle space for longer than 30 days. 9, all recreational vehicle communities allowing placement of any recreational vehicle not equipped with water, flush toilet, lavatory, shower, or bath system shall provide a permanent on-site restroom, lavatory, and shower facility. The applicant, in filling out their conditional use permit worksheet, states that the requested conditional use permit would promote the public health, safety, or welfare by providing accessible recreational vehicle parking for users with electrical, water, sanitary connections. This will not be a danger or hazard to surrounding properties. Conditions that would eliminate or minimize adverse effects of the proposed use in the zoning district are: A, water, sewer, and electric located at each site. B, location of proposed site is within the existing mobile home park. C, existing mobile home park provides a buffer for the RV park. Staff has reviewed the request and forward the appeal to the board for your consideration and further conditions that you deem appropriate.
Mr. Davis, have you got any calls for or against?
I have not received it.
Okay.
Chairman, may I, or you want to go ahead and talk, and interrupt you?
Fine.
Okay. Chair, I just want to make a point. This is something that we've never seen before. This is exciting for Henderson. I did want to let you all know, the law changed in 2019 on RV parks and what's required. And at that point, the city did update our zoning ordinance. And so this is the first one to come before us. You heard him read, you heard Steve read it, and just so that you all know, this still has to go to planning commission. One thing I did want to point out that's in his application, and I wanted to point out our code. He says the location of the proposed site is within the existing mobile home park. And if you remember, Steve said recreational vehicle communities shall not be contained within the manufactured housing park unless constructed as a separate approved and permitted section. So I believe that's what this is going to be, but I just wanted to point the discrepancy out. I think if you look at the plans, it meets those, but I did want to point that out to you all.
Thank you, Counselor. Mr. Davis, a couple of things that I noted are that they are recreational vehicles. There's nothing going to be permanently staged or mounted. They've got a 30-day limit. So to compare this to something, is this similar to what Audubon Park does?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Does this board have any questions for Mr. Davis? Any questions for Mr. Davis? If not, I would like the applicant or applicant's representative for 3522 to approach the podium.
Hello?
Please sign in with your name and address. Please state your name.
Jason Baker.
Mr. Baker, you are the applicant's representative.
Yes.
Can you
We have-
state in what capacity you are representing the applicant?
Okay, so we prepared helped prepare the application and the technical information relative to the site. As city attorney was mentioning, part of this involves preparation of a detailed plan, and so that's been our involvement. The
Okay.
applicant is here as well to answer any questions with regard to operations or anything like that.
Okay. And one thing the counselor identified is that this is separate of the mobile home park. It is a separate section that will be very clearly a separate section. Is that right?
That's correct. Currently, one of the streets within the mobile home park stubs into this area. I believe the area has been used maybe for some of this in the past. Mr. Mickles is looking to bring all this into compliance,
Okay.
is the main reason we've gotten involved.
Okay. I'm going to ask Mr. Nichols to approach the podium also. If you'll sign in with your name and address. Please state your name.
Leonard Mickles?
Mr. Mickles, do you promise to tell the truth?
Yes.
Okay. And also, this question is for Mr. Mickles and Mr. Baker. Mr. Davis identified a lot of parameters as far as code and what have you. I just want you to, I want to know that you understand, or you will get with him to make sure that we do follow code.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. He threw a lot out here. That's why I just.
Well, I've always tried to work with Steve, so,
Great guy to work with,
Yeah.
and he'll give you keep you in all the information you need. I wanted to make sure you guys are talking and making sure that you're getting the information you need to do this right.
yeah.
As Counselor said, this is one of the first ones we're gonna see. Let's do it right. We're probably gonna get watched pretty closely on it.
Well, I feel this is something that is needed. The Audubon Park closes down in the wintertime. They were only open about 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
I made this park to be open so it's year-round.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's something that Henderson needs.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mickles or Mr. Baker, is there anything else that you would like to add?
No, just here to answer any questions.
Okay, does this board have any questions?
Will there be someone on site all the time?
We live in the park.
You do?
We live in number 28.
Okay.
Is there, how, is the entrance gonna be through the park or a separate entrance and exit?
No, it's through the park,
Through the park? Okay.
yeah.
Does this board have any other questions?
I have a question. Are you going to allow any RV vehicles that do not have, or that do not have like running water availability?
I don't allow them.
Okay,
Matter of fact, I had a call last night and I turned it down.
okay.
Any other questions for either Mr. Baker or Mr. Nichols? Other questions? If not, gentlemen, if you'd like to be seated.
Thank you.
Is there anybody here to speak for or against Appeal 3522? Is there anybody here to speak for or against Appeal 3522? If there is nobody here to speak for or against Appeal 3522, I will close the open forum and ask for a motion, please.
I'll make a motion. I move that we grant Appeal 35,
Whoa,
Chair don't like me, though. I move that we grant Appeal 3522 for a conditional use permit to install a recreational vehicle community for the property located at 355 Racetrack Road with the following conditions: electrical, water, and sewer provided at each site, follow all local and state building codes and permit procedures, follow and complete the permit with the health department, provide outdoor lighting and entrance and exit throughout the parking spaces. All recreational vehicles shall be licensed and insured and maintained. Conditional use permit is for the current property owner. And that the evidence presented showed that the granting of the requested conditional use permit is justified because it is essential use in that water, sewer, and electric at each site location is in existing mobile home park. Existing mobile home park provides a buffer. And that the evidence presented showed that the granting of the conditional use would promote the public health, safety, and welfare by providing accessible recreation vehicle parking for users with electrical, water, and sanitary connections. This will not be a danger or hazard to surrounding properties.
Second.
Sarah, may I get a vote?
Mac,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Rob.
Yes. Mr. Mickles, Mr. Baker, Appeal 3522 has been granted in your favor. Feel free to get with Mr. Davis anytime to clarify anything that you may need. Thank you very much for your time. Mr. Davis, our next appeal, 3523.
Proposed Appeal 3523 is submitted by James Collier for the property located at 623 North Main Street. The applicant is requesting an 8-foot side yard setback variance for a covered porch addition pursuant to Article 27, Schedule of Regulations, Schedule A, Appendix A, Zoning Code, City of Henderson, Kentucky. This property is zoned R2. Notices were sent to surrounding neighbors. We have received calls concerning this appeal. Everybody seemed to be okay once we explained what was going on. The variance worksheet states that there are special circumstances for this particular lot that make it different from other lots in the same zone. The shape or shallowness of the lot make it impossible to meet the required setbacks and still maintain a reasonable building area. Strict application of the provisions of the zoning ordinance impose an unnecessary hardship on the applicant or deprive the applicant of reasonable use of the land. The lot was platted and built on prior to the adoption of the zoning ordinance. The existing structure does not meet the current setbacks, and the proposed addition is a reasonable and expected use of the property. Special circumstances they state in their worksheet are, the granting of the variance will not affect public health, safety, welfare, in that it will be built according to current building standards. 2, the granting of the variance will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, in that the porch will follow the outer wall of the house, not extending beyond the existing roof line on the northeast side of the house. 3, the granting of the variance will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public, in that all watershed will be contained on the property. Number 4, the granting of the variance will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the zoning ordinance, in that the house was built prior to the zoning ordinance. The porch roof will not extend past the current roof line of the existing house. Staff has reviewed the request and submit the request for the board's consideration and action.
Does this board have any questions for Mr. Davis? Any questions for Mr. Davis? Will the applicant or applicant's representative please approach the podium? Jim, now that I've gotten in my groove, I'll please sign in with your name and address.
All righty.
Please state your name.
Jim Collier.
Mr. Collier, do you promise to tell the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Is there anything you would like to add to Mr. Davis's testimony?
You know, it was really hard to show, that picture is the best to kind of explain what we're doing, but you can see the furthest section of our house, the left side of the home, is already further than the new room's going to be. So what I'm saying is the new room is going to be on that concrete slab, and it'll be raised up the height that you see the gray foundation. The only reason that slab's there is I wanted some storage underneath. So we put the concrete slab, and then the room will go up equal to the room that you can see to the right. That room, again, I took that picture straight on to make sure y'all could make sure you had the visual that it's not going to be even as far. I was telling Steve, it's approximately a foot, maybe a foot and a half in from our existing house that's sticking out. I did talk to Jewel McClellan, our next door neighbor that you see in the brick home. She's all for it. She said, good for you, but she's happy that we're going to do it. But I did make sure she understood, because she's the only one that this room really affects. And when I say affects, it's on her side of the property. And she agreed that she was all for me and said it was good.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Collier.
Yep.
Does this board have any questions for Mr. Collier? Mr. Collier, please stay at the podium.
Yes, sir.
Till I find out if anybody's got
Okay, good.
questions for you.
Good.
You don't have any? No. Mac, do you have any questions?
I can't think of anything right off. I mean, I'm assuming I guess the curb appearance, is that the property line right there?
We don't know for sure that that's the exact line.
You mean that?
That. I have maintained that. We've lived there 4 years. The Beasley's part of that maintained it. I've planted shrubs, landscaping. Jules said she's fine with it. We don't know that that's the line, but that home, our home was built in 1888. Jules was 1920s. So I'm assuming that concrete wall would not have gone in if it wasn't close to the lot line. I will be honest and tell you, if you look at the GIS photos that the city of Henderson, or the PVA has on them, the lot line looks like it's closer to our home. But as I was explaining to several people, those things are never accurate. Dawn's shaking her head, but because I've been around them so long that a lot of times the line is not, it tries to be accurate. But, so I don't know.
Okay.
To answer your question, don't know the exact. It's where I think it is that close to that.
Any other questions for Mr. Collier? If there are no additional questions, you may be seated if you like.
Thank you. And I do have a photo of what it kind of going to look like. It's not our home, it's not our home, but I sent that photo because our builder is very conscientious of doing it right, structurally doing it right. We want it to be very, very stable to hold this big boy up. And then underneath, the only difference is it'll be boxed in very nicely so that you don't see from my neighbor's side, you won't see under there. It'll be covered with something, not for sure what, but it'll be boxed in.
Well, basically they have this kind of height as far as the storage area?
Mine's about 4 foot. Yeah, it's about right here. If you go back to that, there you go. So see where the gray foundation mat
Right.
goes up to the white vinyl? That's about the crawl space under the new room.
All right.
I just sent that other photo so that you could see the quality of what it'll look like.
Who's going to crawl under there all the time?
So say, don't call me.
I wanted it deeper so I could push things, but Junior was very conscientious of water coming down, which we will make sure those gutters are done correctly, but he didn't want it lower because of the water could go under that area, and it's just storage.
You're gonna have to find you a
lawnmower.
friend that's 4 foot tall.
Exactly. It's just a lot of stooping. That's
Yeah,
right.
see, the only kind of crawl space I want is called a basement.
That's it.
Right.
That's it.
4'11", but I don't do basements or, I don't do crawl spaces or attics.
Any other questions for Mr. Collier? If not, if you don't have anything else to add, you may be seated.
Thank you.
Is there anybody here to speak for or against Appeal 3523? Anybody here to speak for or against Appeal 3523? If there is nobody here to speak for or against Appeal 3523, I will close the open forum and ask for a motion.
He's on his phone. I'll make him. I move that we grant Appeal 3523 for an 8-foot side yard setback variance for a screen and porch addition for the property located at 623 North Main with the following conditions. Follow all local and state building codes and permit procedures. Additions should match the aesthetics of the home and surrounding neighborhood. Guttering systems should tie into the current home to maintain watershed. These findings are based on the fact that the lot was platted and built on prior to the adoption of the zoning ordinance, and that the evidence presented showed that the granting of this appeal will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, and that it will be built according to current building standards, will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, and that the porch will follow the outer wall of the house, not extending beyond the existing roof line on the northeast side of the house. Will not cause a hazard or a nuisance to the public, and that all watershed will be contained on the property, and will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations, and that the house was built prior to zoning ordinance. The porch roof will not extend past the current roof line of the existing.
May I get a second?
Second?
Sarah, may we get a vote?
Mac,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Rob.
Yes. Mr. Collier, Appeal 3523 has been granted in your favor. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis, our last appeal this evening, 3524. Bring that
Yes.
to our attention, please.
Okay. Boza Appeal 3524 is submitted by Jeremy and Sherry Hayner for the property located at 226 LaRue Road. Applicant is requesting a 2-foot height variance to build a garage with storage space pursuant to Article 4, Section 4.24C, Appendix A zoning code, City of Henderson, Kentucky. This property is zoned R1. Notices were sent to surrounding neighbors. We have not received calls concerning this appeal. The variance worksheet states that there are special circumstances for this particular lot that make it different from other lots in the same zone. It will be impossible to build a building at 14 feet and have storage above the garage. Strict application of the provisions of the zoning ordinances impose an unnecessary hardship on the applicant or deprive the applicant of reasonable use of the land. Storage area above the garage is a reasonable use of the land. The building will only be 2 feet taller than the 14 feet required. Special circumstances they state in their worksheet are, 1, the granting of the variance will not affect public health, safety, or welfare in that it will be built to codes. 2, the granting of the variance will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity in that it will only be 2 feet taller than the allowable 14 feet. House will be taller than the proposed garage. 3, the granting of the variance will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public in that all watershed will be contained on the property. 4, the granting of the variance will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the zoning ordinance in that the garage will be built to current building standards. Staff has reviewed the request, recommend approval, and submit the request for the board's consideration and action.
Does this board have any questions for Mr. Davis? Questions for Mr. Davis? If not, will the applicant or applicant's representative please approach the podium? Please sign in with your name and address. Please state your name.
Jeremy Hayner.
Mr. Hayner, do you promise to tell the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Hayner, is there anything that you would like to add to Mr. Davis's testimony?
Cover pretty much everything. I wish I had better pictures. Or taking pictures. I wasn't for sure I needed to do that or not, but no, it's just really just for extra storage above the garage, the ceiling. The house we lived at before, we just moved there like 9 months ago, and all it has is a carport. So we wanted to just build a pole barn / garage in the back, and we got a storage building that we're paying for right now. So we just kind of figure, well, just try to make some extra storage space up top to get rid of this storage building that we have.
Does this board have any questions for Mr. Hayner? Questions?
I'm assuming it's going to be sitting on a concrete slab.
Yes, yes.
Any questions? Mr. Hayner, it doesn't look like we have any questions. I guess Mr. Davis did cover us pretty well. If you'd like to be seated, you may.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody here to speak for or against Appeal 3524? Anybody here to speak for or against 3524? If there's nobody here to speak for or against Appeal 3524, I will close the open forum and ask for a motion.
Your turn. Your turn.
I'm gonna have to read it off. For a second. Yeah, you got that, that help, that will help, that will help. Okay. Yes, I move that we grant appeal 3524 for a 2-foot height variance to allow storage in the accessory building for the property located at 226 LaRue Road, with the following conditions being that structure be built to code and that all watershed will be maintained on the property. If it's, states that special circumstances that for the particular lot that make it difficult for the lot to, in the same zone, it will be impossible to build the building at a 14-foot and have storage above the garage. Strict application provisions of the zoning ordinance impose an unnecessary hardship to the applicant and deprive the applicant of reasonable use of his land. The storage area above the garage is a reasonable use of the land. The building will only be 2 foot taller than the 14 foot required. Special circumstances that state in this worksheet are the granting of the variance will not affect the public health, safety, or welfare in that it will be built to codes. The granting of the variance will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity in that it will be only 2 foot taller than the allowable 14 foot. The house will be taller than the proposed garage. The granting of the variance will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public in that all watershed will be contained on the property, and the granting of the variance will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the zoning ordinance in that the garage will be built to the current building standards.
Second.
Sarah, may I get a vote?
Frank,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Rob.
Yes. Mr. Hayner, Appeal 3524 has been granted in your favor. Thank you very much. Have a great evening. Mr. Davis, conditional use permit review for 2022. Are we prepared to do that this evening?
Yes, sir, we are. There were two of the appeals that the conditions were not satisfied. One was 125 Second Street, and the other was 601 Washington Street. The 125 Second Street was to allow multiple uses, businesses, but not more than three, in the same structure. The structure has not been, I guess, construction on that, just halted. And then the other one on Washington was to install a Class A manufactured home for office use. Nothing's been installed.
Okay. The one on Second Street, well, both of these are a year old. And so the procedure is that they will have to come back for another submittal. Is that correct? So,
They go through the process all over.
okay, so Counselor, do we have to make a motion to, okay,
It's an operation of law, but he's required under the statute to report all these.
okay, but we don't have to act on them.
It's
Okay.
operation of law.
Okay.
Conditional use, it's got use within a year of the granting.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Pleasure.
Is there any other business to come before this board this evening? Any other business? If
Minutes.
not, I know. If not, I would like to get a motion to approve the minutes of July 10th, 2024.
I move, approve the
Second.
minutes as submitted.
Second. Negative vote?
Beck,
Yes.
Heather, Rob.
Yes. May I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to
Adjourn, please.
Second.
Thank you.